So, Professor, let me ask you again our first question that um, you feel free to explain to us, about the first question that it was about the Zionist regime and the consideration that if it's a global matter or if it just belongs to one Palestine itself. Two other things that you said, we will appreciate if you can summarize your issues. Thank you.
Of course, the Palestinian people are the ones who suffer most from Israel's criminality. But since the beginning, since 1948, Israel has been criminal with another country, which is Germany, telling fake news about the concentration camps. The Israeli dogma says that millions of Jews were killed by choice, by government's will in a gas chamber. It is a very terrible lie. It is a criminal lie because it is unjust with the German people, and it creates a terror in the mind of all the Western countries. And this didn't stop until now. Hopefully, many things are moving, and many fake news coming from Israel are being dismantled. So maybe next year this dogma will fall away the same as other. Israel denied during very many years the Nakba. Israel said, the historians of Israel said, well, no, nothing happened. The Palestinians went away because they wanted to to travel. Who knows? No, but now they have to recognize the Nakba, and the Israeli historians, as Israeli journalists, are doing their best to change things inside their own country.
As you know, we are an anti-war and anti-investigation intervention group in the Middle East, and one issue we are examining is the root and causes of war and insecurity in this region. And some believe that what is happening in Afghanistan, Iraq, and other countries in the Middle East, including wars and sanctions, is closely linked to Israel's will, and it always has to be in Israel. What do you think about that?
Yes, and in the recent years, the Israeli attacks against Syria were blatant and terrible, and they are never stopped. Obviously, they try to provocate the United States to oblige them to maintain a state of war against any neighbor of Israel. Israel is completely guilty of the state of war of the whole region, and it has announced it since 1982 with the Oded Yinon plan of destruction of every country surrounding Israel. The principal one, the main target was Iran in their view, but they have not been able to destroy Iran, and they will not.
I was wondering what you think, what is your opinion about the proxy wars and the war that happened in the Middle East, especially in Syria, about terrorist groups. Who do you think is the real supporter of these groups?
Of Daesh and so on?
Yes.
Well, it's complicated because the military industry of the United States wanted to sell a lot of weapons to Daesh. So it is a question of a market, awful thing. But Daesh at the beginning was just a mercenary force, and afterwards it started to do things by itself, not obeying anymore to anyone. Israel is always merging in the decisions of every country, trying to create disorder, and as far as it succeeds, it creates, it weakens any politics, because Israel creates a distortion in every project. But I have no special information about what exactly Israel did with Daesh.
Yes. Thank you, Professor. And do you think is it possible to be an anti-war in the Middle East, but indifferent to Israel and its role in the region?
No, it's impossible to forget that Israel is the great troublemaker in the region. Impossible. But
Yes.
as now it depends on the help of the new government in the United States, or as they are very much divided, they are asking for some insurance from Russia. It's not easy for Israel to survive because his allies are not decided to help Israel until the end.
Professor, for the last question, what do you think is the importance of the media for Israel in order to proceed their goals in the Middle East and in the world?
The media are the great artists of social engineering, of fake news. The most mainstream they are, the more dangerous and liars they are, you see. But there is an evolution. Even if all the people with power in the West are Jewish, are united by some very awful religion dogmas, are haunted by the question of revenge, are decided to slaughter people as much as they can, and so on. You see, even with that tools, that satanic tools, they are completely divided now. The globalists are against Netanyahu. Inside Israel, Netanyahu has a very limited power because his opposition is very strong. So every opinion is now able to come to the mainstream great medias. It's a very strange situation. At the same time as censorship grows in our countries, at the same time many important Jewish figures are protesting against that madness of Israel, of the most criminal sectors, because they see that they are in danger, that they will not be able to maintain such power with so many crimes and so many lies. So the opposition to the criminal behavior of Israel is growing inside the Jewish world, and that's very good.
Thank you. And for the last question, what do you think the region is headed to after the assassination of General Soleimani?
What is going to happen, you mean?
Yes. What do you think is going to happen after the assassination of General Soleimani, and actually the assassination of General Soleimani? What is the effects? What is the side effects of the assassination, killing of General Soleimani in the region?
Yes. Well, as it always happens with very important men, very highly spiritual men, when they die, their second life starts, and it is more powerful even than their first life in our world. So the spirit of Soleimani is growing, even if there are some contradictions inside the Iranian government, even if his project to build an alliance between Arabia Saudi and Iran for the moment has failed for the moment. In other at other level, something submarine level, the unity of people around the figure of Soleimani is growing. His assassination was a very terrible moment for all the good warriors in your countries, in my country, everywhere. It was unbelievable that President Trump could make such an enormous mistake to let him assassinate. But hope has not disappeared, just the opposite. I think that Israel is now experiencing a boomerang reaction against its own crimes. The boomerang is coming near to Israel. We are in good shape with the importance of China and Russia opposing to the United States, the diversification of the forces against the Jewish power, the global Jewish power that was so powerful in these days. The small nation, so the small Zionist States, is not anymore so powerful.